Dawn of the Hunt is finally here, and after diving in for hours on end today, I've got a confession to make. This game is still very beautiful, it's very functional, and technically it does work well. But when it comes to fun, well, it kind of feels like the development team behind the game are kind of clueless as to the reason why punishment is not a good incentive to maintain audience retention. As the boys and girls behind the coding have obviously decided that nerfing was the best way to make the game feel more challenging. Let's start off with what works though, because surprisingly, quite a few things do still work very well in this game. This game still looks incredible with lush haunting environments, full of mystery. The spell casting for the witch, it seems, still feels kind of meaty. The animations are tight, the mechanics are responsive, and combat, at least initially, feels promising. GGG's design team clearly went all out here, and you can feel the game design experience in this department is second to none. Unfortunately, that is where the likability, for me at least, has ended. Now, don't get me wrong, I went on a 17-hour streaming campaign today, so at this point I am a bit tired and grumpy, and I did call it quits once I got to the Dreadnought. However, I will return and I will complete what I've started and try to see if any of the progression can get better the further I dive into the game. But what begins as a thrilling hunt for me, at least today, quickly became a grueling crawl. The early game seemed designed to punish more than teach, and this is more true than ever since the GGG team has decided that nerfing everything to create an illusion of difficulty is the way to go. I mean, I've made it through to the end of Act 2 in the first day, so it wasn't impossible, but I have to say the nerfs do suck. And I mean, the game felt like it was a pizza with no topping. It still looks like a pizza, but without the cheese and sauce, it's just bread, and with no clear signs of making early game progression apparent for anyone. This kind of like early first impression of the game is like a plain pizza, more or less. Now, I am going to say that I was starting the game off in a group of 3, so everything was kind of amplified in terms of health and things like that. But, I mean, even once I separated and started going at the game solo later on in the day, it just kind of sucks that you can't find any way to feel like your character is getting better, besides adding a new skill. And this is where we talk about gearing and crafting, which right now, it kind of feels like you're searching for water in the middle of the Sahara with no map, no guide, and every oasis is turning out to be a mirage. I mean, loot drops are stingy, of course, this is GGG, and the crafting, I mean, obviously you don't have to get me started on that because it doesn't exist. And it's just the way GGG has always cranked up the chaos in their game for gearing early on. So trying to find usable gear during early progression really felt like a cursed ritual. I mean, I was clicking, scouring, re-rolling, regretting, repeating. I mean, if you thought finding upgrades in another ARPG was tough, I mean, Dawn of the Hunt is making them feel like you are buying your food at 7-Eleven, just convenient. The worst part though, this is by design obviously, because grinding gear games refuses to give players a reliable way to gear up in the early game. The idea is probably to make loot feel more meaningful in the end, but I mean, it ends up making the first 20 to 40 hours of play feel like a punishment for even logging in. I mean, it's just so tough. There's no real feeling of progression, only a staticky, lingering sensation that has you checking every drop and just leaving it on the ground. And yeah, I do know the vendors are there and they are not much better. And just to begin with, why should I be having to go to a vendor to begin with? Because 1,000 things are dropping around me and they're all just useless. So, I mean, they need to work this out pronto and figure out how to make these loot tables more sensitive to quite possibly the class that you're playing. That might be something that kind of takes away some of the random RNG-ness of the way that the loot system is working at the moment. Now, Also, to add to my disappointment so far, the servers were absolutely garbage today to begin with. And I know, to be fair, the game has been patched and developers are clearly watching and reacting, but this was just another thing which kind of left me less than enthusiastic to return tomorrow, which I'm going to regardless. But, you know, it was just that me, like, looking back on the day as a whole, it was a long, slow, powerless grind that started off, you know, crashing me every 5 minutes when I talked to anybody inside of the encampment area. So the underlying issue still remains. The game is so absurdly nerfed that you just feel like you're dragging yourself through molasses once you leave the starting area. And I mean, the difficulty in a way was kind of fun. I mean, it is challenging to the sense that you're not just like destroying everything on the map, but I mean, it kind of makes you wonder, why am I only doing this much DPS with this kind of gear? It isn't making sense. Like, I just don't feel like I'm progressing at all in this game. It's just the beginning is just ridiculous. It doesn't feel rewarding. It feels like a consistent uphill battle where the only prize is maybe a blue item with 2 relevant stats. Is this what they meant in the Tavern Talk when they said that they wanted every moment to feel challenging? I mean, because this isn't truly a challenge. It is just a weaker me fighting the same enemies that I fought before this update came up. That's not a challenge. That is just you nerfing me so that I have to struggle more to get through your game. Now, I wanted to love this game this time through. I did. There's something magical about the potential here. The visuals are stunning, the bones of the system are strong, and the combat foundation is great. But when every session feels like it's actively trying to break your spirit, that's when the love just fades. I found myself literally walking away tonight just unenthusiastic about tomorrow's session. Not because the bosses were too hard, but because progression felt like pulling teeth with chopsticks. This is, I mean, there's a difference between challenge and sheer resistance. And right now, Dawn of the Hunt is resisting players at every step. You want to enjoy it, but the game just keeps saying no. So let's just remember, this game is still in early access. Things can change. Systems can improve. Gearing can become viable. Progression can smoothen out, and the experience can become enjoyable instead of excruciating. But right now, no. If you haven't bought into this game yet, don't. Not unless you enjoy frustration. And if you have already paid, unless you are incredibly patient or borderline crazy, you might want to wait a few patches before coming back. This isn't the kind of ARPG that welcomes you. It's the kind that kicks you in the ribs, tosses a mana flask at your head, and tells you to get good with no loot to show for it. But once again, I will finish what I started here, but I am sure that I will not touch POE 2 again for a long time after this. There are just so many other ARPGs out there that are enjoyable to experience, and this update has drained my love of POE 2 big time. So if you've had similar experiences, report it. Use the official channels. GGG is listening, but only if we tell them what's wrong. File bug reports, give feedback, be constructive. They want this to succeed, but they need to know just how punishing the current state is. I want Dawn of the Hunt to be great. I want to come back to it in 6 months and be blown away. But for now, I'm definitely going to step back a little bit. I'm not out of anger, but exhaustion. This desert wins today. If you have played Dawn of the Hunt, let me know your thoughts below. Did you find joy in the chaos, or are you right there with me, wondering the lootless wastelands, wondering what could have been? Like, comment, subscribe, especially if you enjoy honest takes on early access games. I'm the Nerd Bird, and I'll see you guys in the next one, preferably in a less grumpy, painless state.